Welcome back to the Hot Lap here. Tyler Dittmer, joined with always as Brady LaBeouf, presented by the Nazar 360 podcast here. It is our third show now together, Brady. After the 4th of July weekend, how was your weekend?
Oh, it was great. How about you, Tyler?
Not bad. I went down to Pensacola, Florida, saw some buddies of mine. Was an absolute blast. Saw the Blue Angels fly over a little bit. That was always cool.
Oh yeah,
Other
that's
than that,
always a good show.
oh yeah, they're the best. But a little bit different show for the folks watching tonight. Here, we're gonna do a couple different things. We're gonna have our season 6 Triple M Pulling Truck Series winner Keith Bradley on in a few moments to talk with us about his expectations for season 7. Brady, he's joining your team, Mission One Esports, so that'll be a fun conversation.
Absolutely. We're definitely excited about Keith Bradley coming on board. I mean, all-time winner in Nazareth on the Friday night, formerly known as the Triple M Pulling Truck Series, now COPS, Concerns of Police Survivors. So whenever we talk about that, it's pretty much the existing Triple M Pulling Truck Series. But yeah, the past champion, a lot of momentum coming on board, a different Mission One Esports team this season. So adding Keith Bradley was a crucial part in that for us.
Yeah, it was. And we're going to move on now to the Concerns of Police Survivors Truck Series on Friday night, Brady. And our first topic is we had some practice races last week at Milwaukee Mile and the Old Kentucky Speedway. I was not able to be in attendance, but Brady, were you there for either of the races, and how was the action from what you've heard?
I didn't get to make them. I kind of was in and out a little bit, but I did get, a lot of the chatter. The guys, we picked Milwaukee Mile, we picked the Old Kentucky, two fairly new tracks to that series, so we wanted to get you guys some track time. I talked to my buddy Kyle Hess, who's going to be running for BP Racing for Autism. He said that the setup for Kentucky was fairly decent, so not much to tweak there. He said it was a great race. It almost ran kind of similar to the new style Kentucky. Same kind of, you know, the way 1 and 2 you can kind of almost get through there wide open, but in 3 and 4, you got to work the brake pedal, whatnot, get through there. Kind of a single groove track, which is normal for Kentucky. And then Milwaukee Mile is going to be interesting. We heard some, not so good things about the setup that's on iRacing, so we may look to go into a customized setup for that race. We do have some time for it, but the guy said for the most part it was actually a fun track because it is new. So a lot of excitement behind that. So hopefully those two races put on a good show.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of hope for Milwaukee. I know the driver said that the setup was tight from what you just told me, but I've run the setup currently as is on the Milwaukee track, running some time trial stuff just for fun on iRacing, and I think it requires a lot more use of the brake pedal and using the brake bias to your advantage. So if you don't change the setup, maybe I'll show up on the Friday night series and steal a win or something, because I quite enjoy it the way it is right now. But you did mention Kyle Hess, commenting and giving you all the inside information inside baseball. And he's joining BP Racing for Autism, like you mentioned, in a really revamped roster for that team. I mean, we haven't seen a roster this talented for BP Racing for Autism in a long time, maybe since the beginning of the
never.
team.
Never,
Yeah.
Tyler. I mean, when you look at the names, they're highlighted with Nate Maurer. You got Kyle Hess, Sean Hamilton. He's second in points behind you in Monday Night Series, so he's coming on board. Phil Pappas, who ran our Xfinity Series on Thursday night, real consistent driver. I mean, he was knocking out top tens every single week, it seemed like. Never got that win, but it was definitely coming as that series progressed. Then you have James Morris, decided to come back and run full time. And Eric Zimmerman, the leader of that team, he's still going to run port time. So 6 drivers, and it's like I said, it's going to be a good roster for Eric. Probably, I would argue the best rosters he's ever had since he's been with Nazareth.
Yeah, by far. And really, we're wondering, what does this mean for this team? Is it becoming like a swim or an upfront was? I don't know if it's reached that level yet, but it definitely has the upside. I would give it has the upside potential of being as talented as some of the swim or upfront rosters in the past. So definitely a team to keep an eye out for. Maybe a contender in the team championship this season for season 7. But another big topic is a little bit of minor talk amongst the drivers is potential open setups coming to the Friday Night Series, or the open base setup at least coming to the Friday Night Series for certain races. I know that has been toyed with in the past with a few tracks. Are we at least going to see more of those setups, or are we even going to just go fully drivers bring what they got?
Yeah, Tyler. One of the guys that was pretty much the leader of that conversation, kind of your bromance per se, was Chris Cinnamon. He wanted to kind of maybe run different setups to, I guess, take care of the guys that want to, drive maybe a looser truck than a tighter truck or whatnot, and just kind of change it up a little bit, see if it would help other drivers with results, and if it would just kind of change the aspect. You run, two races that say, I'm trying to think of a good track right there. Kentucky comes to mind, Homestead, with a little bit of tire fall off. Maybe run a looser setup and then run another race and run the fixed setup just to see if there was a difference in results or if you saw other drivers progress better. There was topic to, running open setups, but making them run the fixed setup to where they can make in-core adjustments. So that's another topic. It got some chatter last season, but it was already, I want to say, week 6, week 7. So we kind of had to pump the brakes on it. The guys brought it up before the season started, even though the clash is tomorrow night. And iRacing updated their setup, so there's not too many open fixed setups left. But like I said, the chatter is running the open setup format, but making sure every driver inputs the fixed setup in the session to where they can change, make some adjustments on track to make their trucks better throughout the race. We really didn't get that much pushback from guys. I think it's more or less trusting all 40 drivers to do the same.
Yeah, I agree. The enforceability of that's kind of difficult, Brady. I think you and I both realize, and that's something I've been really hoping iRacing would implement is a way to like essentially just change tire pressures, track bar, some things that you can change in the middle of a race at these tracks, spring rubber adjustments, kind of like you could on the old console video games NASCAR produced a while back in conjunction with EA Sports and other organizations. I will say though, you talk about things changing the Friday night series, and you put this in the show sheet, and I was not prepared for it. Things changing on the Friday night series. Adam Newbert, with rumors that he might be in his last season, does he retire a champion by winning one this year in season 7 on Friday nights, or does him winning a championship tell him, hey, let's keep going? Does he do the Tom Brady, just doesn't know when to stop?
Correct. There's a lot of guys, racing on Friday nights. It's the series that's, was the beginning, right? When we first started this, Michael and myself, we were racing on Friday nights. And when we brought the guys over from the previous league, they were racing on Friday nights with us, right? So it was always a custom to be on Friday nights. That's what we did for so long. But now, people's lives are changing. Myself, I had to take a step back from Friday nights just because I got kids in sports, travel baseball. Sometimes we leave on Fridays to go travel across the country for Saturday and Sunday. And you got kids, guys that have kids that are playing Friday night lights football. So Adams, his life's kind of changing a little bit. So there was some rumor, some chatter that he might be taking a step back. Who knows if it's true or not? Adam might have just been having a bad day. But yeah, I think it would be great if he won the championship for season 7, and then he was kind of like, I don't know if I want to leave. I might want to go and, pretty much, try to see if he can go back to back, be the first driver on Friday nights to go back to back, and, try to, see if he can kind of make that leap forward to even getting to that point. So we'll see as the season progresses, Tyler. You never know. People say things. You never know how true they are. 4 or 5 weeks ago, we thought Keith Bradley was going to Redline Racing, and Redline Racing is not even signed up for season 7. So who knows?
Yeah. And before we get on to our guest, Keith Bradley, here in a second, like you mentioned, the Nazareth Clash tomorrow night, Auto Club Speedway, 40 laps, no stages, 100% fuel. It's just outside that fuel window. It's pretty close there for those trucks. One set of tires. Is that one set additional, or just you run what you got 40 laps?
That's an additional set. You'll have a tire change, so I'm sorry for that.
Uh, will they have a tire change? Does someone try to stretch it and just get fuel only? Play a strategy call if we have a green flag run, and it'll be a noon race, so you know it's going to be very, very slick at Fontana. Do you have a race winner, or do you have a race prediction?
Well, it kind of goes hand in hand. I think it's going to be a good race. We've seen Atlanta change. I mean, I'm sorry, not Atlanta. Auto Club change in
Atlanta
recent.
has changed a lot, Brady. It has a
Yes,
lot.
but Auto Club has changed. On top of that, you used to run the bottom. When I first started iRacing, the bottom was where the preferred line was, where everybody ran. It seems like now the top is where everybody runs at Auto Club Speedway. I know the last time I raced there, we raced at night. The time
Mhm.
before that, we raced at night. Now we're racing during the day at noon. And one driver, I think it's going to be a great race. I think it's going to be slick. It may even be like the race similar to what you're watching behind me, the Michigan race. But Stephen Thomas, I think, comes out victorious tomorrow night.
That's a very good prediction. Yeah, Brandon Bullock, our most recent winner though at Auto Club. Uh, I'll take Keith Bradley if he runs, or Adam Newbert.
Yeah.
So if one of those two drivers doesn't run, I'll take the other. But Keith Bradley's my first pick.
Yeah, and
Um,
those three drivers we bring up, Tyler, that track seems to fit their driving style. So,
Mhm.
all good picks, between those three drivers.
Yeah, and if I was running, which unfortunately I will not be, but if I was running, I'd be another guy because obviously you saw at Michigan, I love to rip the top, and it's a lot of fun. But now,
Just surprised you didn't pick Chris Cinnamon. I mean, everything's been about Chris Cinnamon the past couple of weeks. I'm just surprised you didn't pick him again for something.
oh, stop being so sad, Brady. Stop being jealous. Stop being jealous. You're better than that. But at this point in time, we're going to bring in our guest, Keith Bradley, here. I'm going to bring him up into the war room, as Brady and I like to call it, to talk with him about his Season 7 championship. Keith, are you there?
What is up?
How's it been, sir?
Oh, just hanging in there.
Yeah, well, a lot of big news came out of you in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, you win the Season 6 Triple M Pulling Truck Series Championship. Now the concerns of the Police Survivors Truck Series here at Friday Night in Nazareth. You make a big move jumping over to Mission 1 Esports with your boss here on the show. What kind of led to that deal coming together? I'm going to put Brady on the spot here, Keith. Tell me how he approached you, or did you approach him for the spot? And what's he offering you?
So before we really get into the details of it, I actually originally started with Mission One. I can't even remember what we were called back then. But I approached Brady. I said, "Hey, I think I might end up being a free agent at the end of the year or the end of the season." And he said, "No, you're not." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "No, you're not going to be a free agent. You're joining us again." Okay, so I mean that's where we're at. It's been under wraps for probably a couple months before the last race of the season. I know there was a lot of people that were kind of new, but they didn't know, and yeah, I think it caught a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, it definitely caught me out of the dark. But what's the incentive? Are there any incentives? Do you get a little bit more slice of the team championship pie, or is Brady gonna do everyone gets even cuts? So I gotta know. I mean, what's the deal?
Uh, I mean, we didn't really work anything to like that out. We're focused on going and winning trophies.
Hey, nothing wrong
That's
with that.
that's a
I know
great
what I got
answer.
to look forward to.
That's a great answer. But Keith, my question to you is, it's been a week and a half, almost 2 weeks now since you won the championship. I'm not gonna keep reminding you, but it took you 6 seasons to do it. So,
Thanks.
Does it still feel, normal? Is it just like, hey, I'm going into another season, preparing for the Clash, the dual races, speed weeks, whatnot, or does it feel different now that you have that championship under your belt?
I mean, it does, but it doesn't. It feels like we're coming into a normal season, coming off a previous season. I'm not really looking at it any different than I was before. Still got a list of goals that I'd like to accomplish for season 7, and that top of that list is being the first repeat champion. So I mean, that's what we're gonna stay focused on trying to do.
Well,
I
we may
got
get
you.
into that a little bit later on, a little bit of a future tease. We may discuss that first repeat champion ever in the Friday Night Series history. Keith, I know some drivers like to look ahead at the schedule and see where they think they have the best chance at wins. I know you always think you can win every single race out no matter what. But I'm going to give you a couple of the playoff races. Which of these tracks do you think best suits you by far? We're going to start. First race is at Watkins Glen. Then we go to Homestead, Michigan, Dover, Martinsville, Talladega, and then we go to Old Atlanta for the championship. Which of those, outside of Old Atlanta, because I figure you'll say that because it's the championship race, which of those do you think is the best fit for you to get a win in the playoffs and automatically push yourself into that next round?
I kind of want to be cliche and say Watkins Glen. It feels like anytime we go to a road course, I'm running up front. But I'm going to go with either Homestead or Dover.
Right, yeah, a question for our champion.
Yeah, so the team aspect of it, Keith, you're coming back to Mission One. Robbie Richards, established driver there. He's been there since day one, never left, never, besides, if you don't include the other series at Nazareth, but as far as Friday night goes, Robbie Richards has been there forever. Joey Doucette, Ed Osborne, they're coming back for a second season. And then you have Ashley Dotson, from Australia that's joining. So, you're new, but you're not new, but you're coming into the guys that have been there. How is it going to be working with, guys that, you've raced against these past couple of seasons? I think it's been season 3 since we've been together. So 3 seasons, you've been with Chris Cinnamon, Ted Wade. You had Taylor Peacock this past season, Chris Blanchard. So you've had some different guys that you've raced with. How is it going to be that you're teaming up with them now and working with them when you were battling them every single week last season?
I don't think it'll be any different. Like me and Robbie, we still talked after I left Mission One. Not nearly as much, right? Because of the separation of me leaving Mission One. But like Joey, me and Joey talked probably after every race. There was a couple races where half my team was gone and half his team was gone, so we jump in Discord together. Like Talladega, for instance, we were kind of working the same strategy, so we kind of got a good idea. And then I think that the biggest unknown really is Ashley. I've raced with him, but I've not really been in the Discord and raced with him other than Talladega and I think Charlotte. So I mean, I don't think it's going to be any different. I'm more excited to come to Mission One for the fact that there's 2 really fast guys there, and I think that's what I was missing at Mission One when Ted stepped away from full time racing. Ted was really fast, so he pushed me to be even faster, and we kind of pushed each other. And I think that was the season where he won 6 races, I won 5 or 6, maybe 7. And it's more of finding somewhere that has somebody just as fast, if not a little bit faster, so that way I can push them, they can push me, and I think that led to some of the struggle last season. So I'm real excited to get back to work with the guys at Mission One and connect with these guys and see how they work strategy compared to how we work strategy at Mission One or at Upfront, and see if I can bring some of the strategies that we used at Upfront at these super speedways and see if we can carry it over to Mission One and kind of flip the script on everybody.
Yeah, you mentioned bringing stuff over from mission upfront to Mission One, correction, and I want to talk a little bit about your departure from upfront, if that's all right with you, Keith. What was the conversation like, or was there any conversation, or was it more of just a "Hey, I'm no longer coming back to upfront at the end of the season" with your team boss?
So out of respect to John, because I've been racing for him for the last probably 5 seasons or so, and we did some one-off races on the dirt side for some big money events, and I reached out to him before Charlotte. I wanted to let him know before the unveiling video came out that, hey, I'm not going to return this. Had a conversation. He took it really well. There's no hard feelings between me and John Hedrick. He did a lot for me, and I think I did a lot for him as far as building up front. So I mean, there's a level of respect, and I don't think it's been lost.
I got you, Keith. Well, my last question to you would be, you're preparing for tomorrow night, the Clash. You're going into speed weeks. Then it's week one. I mean, we're getting going, and tomorrow is, you know, 3 weeks away from week one. So we're going into this 25-week season again, grueling. It's going to go all the way to the week before Christmas before it ends. So, what is your preparation? How many wins do you see yourself getting this season? And who is your biggest competition from taking the championship away from you?
Um, I'm honestly excited to get the season going. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna be at the Clash tomorrow night. Right now, it's just kind of in limbo. I might take that weekend and spend with the kids before we really get going. And then as far as wins, I hate to put a number amount out there, but maybe a handful. We'll see. I hate to jinx myself before the season even starts. So I don't want to be cocky and say I'm going to win 5 or 6 of them. But as far as the biggest competition coming into the season for the championship, anybody over at Swim. Then there's a couple guys at BP I think that is going to really surprise some guys. So we'll see. I'm going to be pretty focused coming into week one, knowing that how long the season is and stage race. I mean, that's the biggest thing is accumulate a bunch of stage points each week just in case if something happens in the race and I don't finish it, I still got a bunch of points to lean on into the playoffs.
Yeah, Keith, I think that's a very mature racer's approach coming into the season. I know we may talk with some drivers here, and they're very loud and boisterous about what their opinions are, what their goals are for each season. I think that's a very smart and measured approach to view the season. But I will say, what would be the defining thing that could happen this season that you would consider the season a failure? Is it no wins? Is it getting knocked out of the playoffs first round? I won't even consider the thought of you not making the playoffs. That's just not even a possibility in my mind, Keith. But what would happen this year that you would consider the season a failure?
Not making the championship six, that would make it a failure. It would probably upset me and make me mad more than anything. I feel like I'm good enough, fast enough to be in the championship conversation each season. I just don't want to put that high of an expectation as far as, oh, well, I'm going to win every race in the playoffs and make it to it. I'm expecting to be in the championship. If we get knocked out before then, that the season's a scratch. It's a failure. It means I didn't do my job good enough, and we're just going to take it one race at a time.
Yeah, well, Bray, as an owner, that sort of drive and motivation has to make you happy.
Oh, absolutely. Because that's what we expect. When we first started that team, it was wins because myself, Robbie Richards was on there, Keith Bradley. We had Kyle Hess that came in, and I want to say in his first 5 starts, he won 2 races. So, I mean, it's wins and championships. Robbie's done great. Joey's done great. We're going to try to, get Ed up to par a little bit better. Ashley, he raced with us seasons ago. He came back. We're glad to have him back. Uh, I think he needs to learn a few things, drive consistently. He almost reminds me of a Jose for, dep racing. Over aggressive sometimes when you can kind of just lay back, knock those top tens, get those top fives, and then eventually you're going to get a win, right? So there's some different, it's definitely diverse throughout the team as far as driving style and success. as far as the Friday night series goes. But that's why we brought a guy like Keith on board, and between him, Joey, and Robbie, we expect those three guys to be in the championship six by the season's end.
Well, Keith, again, the confidence back in you from your boss has to be a nice thing. Or really, I say boss, but it's more of a buddy. And I think the three of us also have kind of built a relatively strong rapport with each other. And I think we all like to see each other be successful and do well across whatever series we're doing. So I do want to say best of luck to you this season, Keith, in the Friday night series. Of course, you and I will probably talk about how our seasons go as we progress through them.
Absolutely. Thank you guys, and I appreciate you guys having me on. And Tyler, Brady, good luck with your Monday night stuff, and let's go get some wins either on Monday or Fridays.
Of course, we appreciate you coming on, talking with us. Thank you for your time, Keith.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, Brady, that was, I think, an absolutely great interview talking with your future driver here in Season 7 of the Concerns of Police Survivor Friday Night Series. But I think now it's time to look forward and talk about, we're getting away from NASRA here with our next segment. We're doing an all NASCAR version of On the Move to the Rear. Brady, we topics of conversation here this weekend, and I thought it was interesting. You went with Cup Series drivers for both your On the Move and To the Rear. I decided to dip my toe into the Xfinity Series for my On the Move driver, but if you want to kick it off with the On the Move driver, Brady, that you have after an interesting weekend in Chicago.
Absolutely. We ironically, because of 4th of July, we were off for Monday night series. We'll get into that later on the show. We were off for Friday night series, because it was championship, then it was an off week, and now we're getting right back into the clash. So interesting that we had practice races across the board. So why not keep the segments going, but just do it a different style, different topic. The show can be talked about anything. It's not just NASRA. That's why we ask the guys to do live questions to us. We'll answer them. If anybody wants to come on board, talk to us one night, be our guest, that's fine. But my guy on the move is my buddy Chase Elliott. His last three finishes, 5th, 4th, 3rd. I know he's missed 7 races so far this season after that whole debacle with Denny Hamlin. But he's only 55 points out of the cutoff for the playoffs. I don't even think he has to win a race. I know he's kind of missed out on some stage points here, but I mean, you can't deny the top 5 finishes that he's put together, and it's only going to get better for him. He's going back to a place, Atlanta Motor Speedway. He's the past winner. He's won there. This race he won last year. I was in Destin, Florida, watching it on my cell phone on the beach. So Chase Elliott probably will win again this weekend. Who knows? Hometown track. But I'm pulling for Corey LaJoie. I hope he does win this year. But Chase Elliott, he's on the move, man. I don't think he has to win. I think he will point his way into the playoff.
My counter being the race this year is completely different. It's at night. That Atlanta is now at night because it was way too hot last season. I think the slick track helped Elliott. He hasn't really been he didn't have a good start to the season. Then he had that snowboarding injury out 6 weeks. It's obviously suspended the 1 week for the right rear hooking of Denny Hamlin. But I definitely a driver I agree you should keep an eye on because he has been doing really well recently. And Ty Gibbs has been really struggling recently, the driver currently 16th in points. And really, Ty Gibbs, we expect to do better at road courses, was not good the last few road courses we've had. And other drivers who are better at mile and a half are going to start showing up here shortly. But my driver on the move, Brady, I went away from the Cup Series, and I took the extremely rain-shortened race winner, Cole Custer. And I know, everyone's going to be like, well, it didn't even get to halfway. How can you call it a real win? There's a rule in NASCAR. They can change the race distance however they want, whenever they want. It is a rule. Bob Pockrass proved it. That's all I need. But he did win Portland. It's not like Cole Custer's a bad driver. Is he Cup-worthy talent? No. Do I think Stewart-Haas racing maybe wasn't helpful for him last season as well because their cars suck? Yes. That being said, he's won 2 road course races this season. He's currently 3rd in points, 3rd in the playoff standings, has 15 playoff points already as my dog is fighting in the background. My apologies. But Cole Custer's having arguably one of the best seasons he's had since he left the Xfinity Series 4 Cup. And he's beating guys like John Hunter Nemechek, who are in better equipment. He's beating the Junior Motorsports drivers who have all struggled this year, minus Justin Allgaier. I mean, Josh Berry has not been great. He's been good, not great. So it's been a very interesting situation to watch Cole Custer this year.
Absolutely. And look, Cole Custer, I mean, he was one of my picks. If you watched the last week episode, you picked Justin Marks, who finished, I think, like 37th, maybe.
His engine blew up. His engine blew up.
I had guys like Justin Allgaier, John Hunter Nemechek, Cole Custer, 1, 2, 3, baby. I'll pick them again every single road course. But no, Cole Custer, he's definitely hot right now. He deserves to be in Cup. Hope he makes his way back there. Somebody give that man $6 million, put him back in the Cup ride. That's where he deserves to be.
The thing is, Custer's situation wasn't a money issue. In Tony Stewart's eyes, it was a talent issue. But I think Stewart seeing this year with Stewart-Haas that it maybe wasn't Custer. It was most likely the team. Because the only good driver last year was Kevin Harvick. And really this year, he hasn't been great. I mean, he's been solid. I mean, no discredit. Kevin Harvick is outperforming everything. But otherwise, in Cup, Stewart-Haas has been horrible. I mean, horrible.
Yeah,
just
dreadful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that concludes our on the move, but we're gonna move towards the rear drivers right here. Brady.
It is, and I kind of struggled with this one, but I got to call him out. Alex Bowman. I know he's missed some races and whatnot. He had the injury just like Chase Elliott had, even though it was different situations. It was a racing accident. That rings the question. Should these guys be able to do stuff like this, racing like Kyle Larson races, but with the obligations they have? But, his last 5 finishes, 12th, 26th, 15th, 17th, and 37th at Chicago. It's not going to get it done. We saw during the race, he was running up front, and he was in the green for about 2 points, but that only lasted for a couple of laps, and then next thing you know, he gets involved in a wreck, and, next thing you know, he's finishing 37th. And now he's 26 points behind the cutoff line. I see this being a continuation for Alex. He seems to be the, I guess, no offense to him, the lesser talent or the lesser hype out of the Hendrick drivers. I mean, everybody would agree with that. Everybody's got a lot more hype between Chase, Kyle, and William. But yeah, Alex, I see him continue dropping because there's guys like Bubba Wallace, there's guys like Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, that's going to keep on climbing, and people are going to win. You're going to start seeing different winners. We're going to a bunch of wild card tracks. That's, that cutoff that where he's trying to fight for 26 points to get into the playoffs, that's going to move as these guys win, like Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Ty Gibbs, because I still see those 3 drivers getting wins.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with your view on Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, and I can't. I'm blanking on the last name already.
Ty Gibbs. Ty
Gibbs. I don't see Ty Gibbs getting a win, and there's a few reasons why. All the other Toyotas, whenever Gibbs has been fast, it's because all the Toyotas have been fast, and he's always been the 6th fastest. Like both 2311 cars have been significantly faster than him this year. I don't see it happening for him, but sticking with, I do agree that Bubba probably finds a way to win. Michigan, he almost won last year. And then obviously Chase is going to get a win. There's no way he doesn't, in my opinion. I don't think it comes at a road course. I think his road course dominance days are over. He has not done well in this new car at all on road courses, 0 wins, because it's more like a GT car. So his advantage was being a stock car driver on a road course. Now he's essentially driving a GT car on a road course. He's not that good. But my driver to the rear is your Coke 600 winner. I know, he's already in the playoffs. How is he to the rear, you might ask? Last 3 finishes, 33rd at Chicago, 36th at Nashville, and 31st at, I'm trying to remember what the schedule was before then, Sonoma. Ryan Blaney is not a bad road course racer, but he has finished outside the top 30 in both. And then he had a 36th at Nashville. I mean, Blaney, after a pretty solid weekend at Gateway, finished 6th, and the win at the Coke 600, has not been good. He has really struggled to find his groove, and really, I don't know if it's Blaney's fault. I think it's a Ford issue. Ford has been bad this year, Brady. I don't know what they can do to fix their problems. Penske hasn't been great as a whole. Blaney, Logano, Cindric. Cindric's been mediocre at best. I think he's outside the playoffs currently. Yeah, actually, no, Cindric is well outside the playoffs. He's 22nd right now in points. I mean, I don't know what Blaney needs to do, but we're going to a super speedway, which he's always been very good at super speedways. Maybe this is his bounce back week, but right now he is not moving forward. He is going to the rear.
Yeah, and when you think of Penske, the name, I still think of Brad Keselowski before I think of Ryan Blaney. Joey Logano, but it is a Ford thing. It's the development. It's trying to wrap their brains around this new car. Yes, Joey Logano won the championship last year, but it's not like they dominated. It's the playoffs. Anything can happen, right? But Ryan Blaney probably to me, and I'm a Ryan Blaney fan. I like Ryan Blaney, but he has to be the most inconsistent driver in the field. He may win or run second, and then next week you don't even hear his name. Like that's just how it goes on a week-to-week basis with him. I don't know if it's the track. I don't know if it's the car, the team, what it is. Maybe do a crew chief change, whatnot. But it's just not the Ryan Blaney that we are accustomed seeing, who's consistent, knocking off top fives week in and week out.
Yeah, and I just want to take a point to look at currently the 16 drivers currently in the playoffs. So 2 Fords have won races so far this year. That's Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano. They both have 1 win each. Then you have Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher all in on points. They've all had very, very solid years. Brad Keselowski's been very, very strong. Kevin Harvick's been very, very strong. Really, all 3 of them, Buescher included, have been outperforming their cars. Really, RFK is kind of having a revival right now, Brady, and it's great to see. They're bringing in new sponsors every week. Toyota has all 6 of their cars in the top 16. I mean, Toyota's good. Toyota's very, very good right now. And then you see the Chevys mixed in there. Obviously, HMS has 2 drivers currently in with Byron and Larson. Trackhouse has Chastain. You have the RCR of Busch. You have Stenhouse Jr. as kind of the wild card Chevy because of his 500 win. But when you look kind of just how the season's gone, you're right. Ryan Blaney's been very inconsistent. And Fords haven't been great. Only 2 Ford winners. They both only won 1 race. Like I said, 3 are in on points. But, look at all the Fords outside the top 10. And they include big team drivers such as Stewart-Haas Racing and Penske Racing with Cindric, Preece, Almirola. Briscoe is 31st in points right now, Brady. 31st.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
It's pathetic. It really is. I'm sorry to use that word, but it is. Chase Briscoe was, on a fly. It seemed like we were talking about him every single week. Whether it was on a dirt, if it was on road course, if it was on an oval, and he's nowhere to be found. I don't know if somebody swapped him out with somebody else and he's on vacation or something, but somebody needs to go grab him and tell him to get back in the car and get up there because, like you said, Ford is just struggling to no end. We do not. The only time we heard Eric Almirola's name at Nashville was when he was getting lapped by Ross Chastain. So
yep.
Something needs to change. They need to figure it out. Playoffs are 8 weeks away, so they need to figure it out.
Look at some of the drivers ahead of Chase Briscoe. You have Eric Jones, Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, Corey LaJoie, Justin Haley, AJ Allmendinger, Michael McDowell. Some of these drivers don't have anywhere near the equipment or the talent we would consider compared to Chase Briscoe, but he has been horrendous. He's only 40 points ahead of Noah Gragson, who missed a week and has been horrible in Legacy. It's Stewart-Haas has been horrible this year. And Absolutely. I think this actually gives us time to move on towards our hot lap segment, Brady. We went from one back and forth, really not even a back and forth. We both Stewart-Haas is terrible.
Absolutely.
Now we're moving on to some more topic time, and you will give me the first question. And just a reminder for everyone at home, 6 questions, 3 directed each. You get 1 minute, 45 seconds for initial response, 30 seconds for your reply. Brady, whenever you're ready to hit me with your question, go for it.
Yeah, so the first question of tonight, Tyler, is out of the current champions who are racing on Friday nights, which is the Cops Truck Series, formerly Triple M Pulling, going into Season 7, we got Season 4 champion Chris Cinnamon, Season 5 champion Stephen Thomas, and Season 6 champion Keith Bradley. Which one of these three drivers has the best shot at winning a championship and becoming the first two-time champion in the series?
All right. This is hard because all three of these drivers were racing for the championship last season. So two of them could have done it, Stephen Thomas and Chris Cinnamon. Keith Bradley moves over to a talented Mission 1 Esports, although I will say slightly unproven outside of Robbie Richards. Robbie Richards is really the only driver there who's really stapled himself as a competitive driver week in, week out. No offense. Chris Cinnamon now leads up front by himself. And Stephen Thomas is still with Swim with Adam Newbert. Championship race is at Old Atlanta. 1.5 miles, a lot of tire wear. I'm going to take Keith Bradley because he has the experience now. He now knows how to win a championship. So we knew he knew how to win races. We didn't know if he knew how to win a championship, but he has proven to us now. I still think he's the greatest driver to ever do it in the Friday Night Series. You may still disagree. That's your own opinion. You're still wrong. And I don't see the 1.5 mile Atlanta really fitting into Stephen Thomas's wheelhouse. It's not really. He's a very great short. He's the best short track racer probably in NASCAR, Stephen Thomas. He's very solid in the 1.5 miles, but Keith Bradley and Chris Cinnamon are just so much better at the 1.5 miles. If they are in the championship 6 together again, it's between Bradley and Cinnamon like it was at Charlotte. And I still think more tire wear at Old Atlanta helps out Chris Cinnamon a little bit, but I still think Keith Bradley gets it done. The Animal will be your first ever 2-time championship winner, and he'll do it in back-to-back fashion.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you, Tyler. And I'm going to tell you why. You know, it takes a lot to go through these 25 weeks, to be consistent, make the playoffs. We've seen Keith get knocked out of the first round one season. We've seen him get knocked out the second round of another season. And I'm going to remind you, he had so many playoff points. It was almost sad that he got knocked out of it. It was almost like Kevin Harvick a couple of seasons ago. My pick would be Stephen Thomas. He does run great at Atlanta. The last time we were there at the Old Mile, the only reason why he didn't win is because it turned into a race strategy, and he didn't take tires. So he spun out the tires, got wrecked pretty much the whole field, and that's why he didn't win. Stephen Thomas is going to be my pick.
I say the 30 seconds is a lot harder, Brady. I can't attest in responding that much time.
No, we changed it this week to 45 seconds.
Oh, yeah, my bad. It was 45 seconds. I don't know why I said 30. Anyway, my question to you, we're going back to NASCAR, and it has to do with this week's winner at Chicago in the Cup Series. Back-to-back wins for Trackhouse Racing. First time they've ever done that. Ross Chastain won at Nashville. Now they win at Chicago. Project 91, pretty big deal, gets a win under the lead of Shane Von Gisbergen. I'll probably mess that up, but whatever.
SVG.
Yeah, SVG. The last outsider to win at the Cup level was Marcus Ambrose in 2012. Like, outsider as in not from the United States. He won at Watkins Glen, but he was a full-time driver for Richard Petty Motorsports at the time. But they're both from supercar backgrounds in Australia. Both have won multiple championships in supercars. And most people who have come to the Cup level from other forms of motorsports have not had the same types of success. Look at Jenson Button, Kimi Räikkönen. Montoya had a little bit, but I would still say Ambrose is more successful.
I would agree.
He was in lesser equipment, too. Has Trackhouse opened up the Cup Series for supercar drivers to come to NASCAR full time?
You know, I think it was a great story, you know, the Project 91. I don't think it got as much hype last year as it has this season, especially with Shane winning that race. I mean, congratulations, Shane. You know, when you beat guys like Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr. at a track like Chicago, I know it's a new race. You can say what you want, but the guys were running up front. You know, you had a bunch of them, and he found out real quick on restarts, you have to be aggressive because track position's everything, and he dropped. You know, he went from, I want to say, second to like sixth in a couple of laps because that's how aggressive the race got. Does it open up the door? I mean, I think it can, and I would like to see it happen. I think Trackhouse, you know, you bring up Trackhouse, I think they're a team that wants to progress and get bigger. I think they want to become a four core team. I don't think Justin Marks is a guy that runs a team and just settles for, having the one core and a 99. I could see him, this Project 91, turning into a full time ride. It may not be the same driver week in and week out, but it could definitely be a car that shows up at the track week in and week out and just kind of changes people around. So definitely it could potentially go that route. Uh, I just think it's hard for somebody. There's a big difference racing on a road course compared to an oval. Like you said earlier, we've seen guys have some success, like Juan Pablo Montoya, Marcus Ambrose, but I mean, Marcus Ambrose never got a win on an oval, for what I could remember.
Neither of them did, actually. Juan Pablo Montoya never did either. He had a win at, I believe, Sonoma. My thing is, supercars, I think, with the current next gen car is the easiest to get in and drive, especially at a road course. The next gen car got a lot of their data from supercars. They went to Australia, NASCAR did, to help them design the next gen car. I also think not left foot braking was a huge advantage for SVG. He did the old heel and toe. We don't see a lot of Cup guys do that anymore. But I will say this. When it comes to ovals, I think a full-time successful IndyCar driver could come to NASCAR and be successful if they also had a supercar or dirt background beforehand. And that's all I'll say for now. More to come.
And I will say that all those Cup drivers took all that data from that 91 car, and they are going to study it before they go to the next road course.
Yep.
So on to question 3 for you, Tyler. We have noticed a lot more cautions in both series in recent weeks. Do you think it is a product of the equal amount of competition across the board? And this is kind of a two-part question for you. Or is it a product of having stages to keep the fields closer together throughout the race? Do more mistakes happen because not every driver uses triple monitors versus single monitors, and whereas they have a lesser view as a guy on their inside or outside?
So to answer your first part, which is it competition or stages that keeps causing these cautions? I think it's both. Competition has brought the field closer together. As you see, a lot of Michigan stuff was drivers being on top of each other. That's also a product of Michigan. It's a drafting track. You're not going to get very far away from someone, in my opinion. But stages also re-racks the field. We see a lot of cautions generally come after other cautions. Generally, if we have a good initial start clean, we can go green for a while in a lot of our series. So I think stages do play into it a little bit, not as much as as we would be worried about, but they do factor in a little bit. You say the single monitors versus triple monitors. I run a single monitor, and I have the least amount of incident points, I believe, currently per laps run on the Monday Night Series at this point in time. It has nothing to do with the monitor. It has everything to do with a lack of patience and respect for other drivers around them, and people not slowing up when they see a truck get sideways, as you see a replay now of a truck who got sideways, hit another truck, and then gets rear-ended behind them. It's a lot of just impatient drivers thinking they have to make the move right there, right now. Do I think you have to make moves early on in a run at a lot of these tracks? Yes, but you can make them smartly. You never saw Sean Hamilton or myself or Adam Newbert wreck each other. Adam Newbert got wrecked by someone else in that fray. But the three of us were able to pass each other, race very competitively, and go back and forth without any issues. And actually, if you look at the end of stage 1 and 2, great racing throughout. Like, absolutely amazing racing to the end of the stages. It's not the monitors, it's the drivers at the end of the day, and not realizing that there's a middle and left pedal, and not just the one on the right.
I would agree with you, Tyler. That was actually a topic during the practice races. Single monitor versus triple, and I think it's a lot of it was on restarts and whatnot. Just seeing that person more clear with a triple monitor has a little bit more advantage of seeing that view. But yeah, I mean, look, the competition we design it to be this way, right? You want to get the guys that were closer together as far as competitiveness and having fun or whatnot. But the stages, of course, it's our style of racing. They're not going away. People just have to adapt to the way we race. And I think that's the number one thing that people, come into. They think, hey, I'm just going to run these races and be fine. But stages play a different role in that.
Yeah, and we're gonna move on, and this is kind of a cross question here between NASRA and NASCAR, and we're talking about super speedway racing. Obviously, the NASCAR Cup and Xfinity Series run to Atlanta Motor Speedway, really now Atlanta Motor Super Speedway. It feels like Brady. While Monday Night Series is gonna hit Talladega on Monday, and the Friday Night Series, yeah, I know they're at the Clash tomorrow, but in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, they're gonna be at Daytona for the season opener. So it's all about super speedway racing right now. Of the 4 races, we're just going to take the season opener, not the dual races for the Friday Night Series. Of the 4 races, Talladega, Daytona, and the 2 Cup and Xfinity, which race has more cautions, and which race has more vehicles running at the finish? Doesn't have to be on the lead lap, just running. So cautions and then running vehicles.
So I'm gonna say Atlanta has more cautions, just because it's tighter.
Which Atlanta race? Xfinity or Cup?
Xfinity.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Xfinity. But it's just more narrower track. It's 1.5 miles. It's so tight. Just it's just tough. It's hard. Things happen so much faster at 1.5 miles than 2.66 miles or even 2.5 miles. I mean, we see it on iRacing. It just happens. Plus, tires become a factor at Atlanta. Tires are really not that big of a deal at Daytona or Talladega. The tire factor comes in at Atlanta. I see more cautions being in the Xfinity race. Actually see more cars running at the end of the Cup race. So I know it kind of goes hand in hand. I'm not saying that, if Xfinity has, 8 or 9 cautions, that the Cup Series doesn't have 6, but we've seen in the past where some of these, super speedway races, they fix their cars and they go about their business. As long as they don't have the toe damage, the tires aren't falling off. So I see more cautions on the Xfinity side. I see more cars running on the Cup side. I actually think this Cup race, it being at night, is going to be way better than it was during the day because the like you said last season, the tire fall off, it was slicked, whatnot. That's going to change. Who's running up front? We might not see Chase Elliott dominate like he did last year's race, but I just see more cars running at the end of the Cup race at Atlanta.
I agree. I think the Cup race at Atlanta has the most cars running out of all 4 races. I think the Friday night season opener has the most cautions, and here's why. You'll have the biggest field of the season by far. You'll probably have over 40 drivers. You'll probably have 44. That's more than the Cup Series or Xfinity Series currently runs. Daytona is extremely narrow, and with how these trucks are currently running in iRacing, they are very, very loose in traffic. They are probably the loosest they've been in a drafting package in a while. And it's a lot of fun. I think it requires a lot more talent from the drivers, but I think you'll see more cautions on the Friday night series at their season opener, which is a crown jewel race. And I'll quickly plug, and I'll end my time for the 45 seconds, but I'll quickly plug the crown jewel races for the Friday night series this year. There's 4 of them. We'll have trophies to come with the winner from Murph's Magical Creations. Just a really cool thing we have going on this year, Brady, for those 4 crown jewel races.
Absolutely. And I'm going to switch it over to the topic of Chicago Street Course. Do you think it was a mistake or a home run for NASCAR to go to the city of Chicago and run a race? Do you see it becoming a trend in other cities like Detroit, Nashville, where Indy cars host races at those spots?
So first, statistically speaking, it is a home run. It's the most watched race on NBC for NASCAR since 2017's season finale at Homestead. It's not even close, actually, to any of the most recent races. 4.6 million viewer average. They're saying it peaked probably around 6-ish million viewers. Only the Daytona 500 gets better numbers than that right now, Brady, and it's by a long shot.
Unbelievable.
No, it was great. And look at the rating in Chicago. They estimate that about 10% of houses in Chicago were watching that race, a market that NASCAR never touches. And on top of that, you want to know who else was watching that race? Pretty big name in world motorsports, Max Verstappen. He was quite literally quoted saying he was screaming at the television rooting for SVG at the end of that race because he was that into it. Because SVG is a Red Bull sponsored driver as well. I mean, this is just absolutely an insanely good thing for ratings. Do I think the weather hurt the in-person product, yes. It affected the concerts, which sucks. The Chainsmokers didn't get to perform. That kind of sucks. That was going to bring out a lot more people as well. But the race itself was big, and it's been accepted by most of the city. A few businesses have complained about things being shut down for them, but their complaints were actually more directed towards the mayor and not NASCAR. They said NASCAR was very courteous, didn't affect traffic almost at all. A lot of people said the race was very well run from NASCAR side of things. Brett Griffin also spoke about how the city kind of ruined things for them, but it wasn't the sanctioning body. The sanctioning body did everything right. Does it stay in Chicago? Question for our final lap segment. Do I think it goes to other cities? Yes, but not until it leaves Chicago. They'll only ever run one street course a year, or they're going to have to start taking some road courses away if they want to do two. I'm okay with two, but you got to get rid of Sonoma, in my opinion.
I don't know if you get rid of Sonoma. That would be my only disagreement with you. But we can save that topic for another episode, I guess you can say. But no, it was a home run. Like you said, the NBC, most viewed since 2017. It was great. It was a fun race to watch. Yeah, weather sucked, but weather always can play a factor in it. But for the most part, it was a great race. It was a great event. Some of the extracurricular activities, we didn't get to see some of that because of the weather. I thought, the race was great. I could see things a little bit different. It just seemed like, if you were in front of a guy, you couldn't really pass that well unless you were on better tires like Shane at the end. But I think they could make the racing just a little bit better.
I'd argue, though, it's probably the best road course product we've had all year of the other road courses we've been to. There was more passing at Chicago than there was at the other tracks we've gone to with this car. So maybe the street course is better for this new car, at least for racing product-wise. But now we're going to move on to something about the playoffs, Brady. And my question is, which driver on Monday nights from last season doesn't make the playoffs this year in Season 2? And which driver from Friday nights, Season 6, doesn't make the playoffs of Season 7? So you got to choose two drivers here, one from each.
Okay, so it's same question, two different series, correct? Monday and Fridays.
Yep.
Okay, so Mondays I was looking at it, and there was three names that popped out to me right away. Brian Chu, Tim Hammond, and Brandon Broadfoot. And I kind of went through this whole debate, and I went through, looking at past results and whatnot. I know, Brandon shows up every week, right? Tim's missed a race. I believe Brian's missed a race. As it shows now, I know Brandon's in there. Brian and Tim are outside looking in. But my gut feeling tells me to go with Brandon Broadfoot. I don't think Brandon Broadfoot makes the playoffs again on Monday nights. He's too inconsistent. It's checkers or records. Until he becomes more consistent of just being okay with finishing 12th. Because if anybody knows, you have to, in order to get to the playoffs, you have to finish races. And Brandon just doesn't find a way to finish races. He always finds himself as a topic of discussion after a race. So until it becomes more consistent, I see Brandon being the guy, in 21st, 22nd, not making the playoffs. On Friday nights, the guy, out of the top 20, first six that were eliminated, Huck Wigginton's my guy that just does not make the playoffs again. I think there's a bunch of new people that came in that's going to take some of those spots away that wasn't there last season. I see Huck maybe running, 20th to 25th at best every week. So I see him consistently running in those spots to where he'll probably finish 23rd, 24th in the standings whenever we go into the playoffs.
Yeah, my Friday driver is Taylor Peacock. I think these new drivers are going to take away that super speedway win. Someone's going to get the win. It's not going to be him. So that's his big detriment already. And I think he's kind of had some rough luck recently. I don't necessarily know if he needs a change of scenery or a change of pace, but it has not been as successful as it was for him in the past. My Monday driver is Raul Meza. I don't think he gets it done anymore. I think the Monday series has gotten a lot more competitive. He's right on the outside looking in. There's another driver that we'll bring up in the final lap that I think is an interesting topic of discussion, because right now he's the easy one to say he's not going to make it, and based on how far out he is. But that'll be a tease for our final lap segment, Brady. But right now, Taylor Peacock, Raul Meza.
Yeah, and that's our hot lap segment for this evening, and we're going to switch gears over to the Monday night series, Tyler. That they were all practice races. I was able to make both of them. We had a great time, a blast. There was some things that we did work on. We went to Martinsville. We ran 100 laps at Martinsville, and then we had a 30-lap race at Talladega just to prep for, Monday's race coming up for week 7, I believe. So we'll be halfway. Once Talladega concludes, we'll be halfway through the regular season. It's getting, antsy. The pressure's on. These guys that we just spoke of, that's outside the top 20. I just talked to Tim Hammond today. He blew up my phone, texting me. He's ready for Talladega. He wants to get a win. He always looks forward to Talladega Super Speedway racing. But 979 Racing swept the practice races. Curtis Rogers won at Martinsville, and Donnie Lyons and that 79 truck won at Talladega. And I think my topic of discussion would be to you, Tyler, is which one of those drivers do you see getting their first career victory in the SimRacerHub.com Truck Series on Monday nights? They're both equal. When it seems like they're always racing around each other. We saw Curtis Rogers should have finished 6th at Michigan. You'll see it in a little bit if it makes it in time. Was running 6th. I was running right behind him. Got turned by Raul Meza that you just spoke of. Should have got a 6th place finish. Got turned right before the line. I think he finished like 21st. But which one of those drivers do you see getting a victory lane?
So first question I have to ask Brady is, who ran the practice races Monday? Because I was not there. Was Nathan Maurer or Adam Newbert there?
Neither one of them were.
Okay. So no offense to Curtis Rogers.
We had 20 guys in each. We had 20 guys in each.
So no offense to Curtis Rogers. I think either Newbert, Maurer, or myself wins at Martinsville. So that kind of takes away from him. I think he runs great there. I think he's definitely improved a lot from what I saw from season 1. I don't know if he gets the win, but I think he is definitely a driver who will make the playoffs this year comfortably. Donnie Lyons at Talladega is so hard. 20 drivers is a lot more fun at Talladega. We saw it in the preseason race we did before any of the clashes and the duels we did. Brady, I think a week before all that started, we ran a race at Talladega. We had the best time of our lives. We had a fast repair, so we were just kind of making moves and didn't really care. It's so hard.
But we were running 3 wide every single lap. It was fun. We had a blast, man. We just went after it. No worries in the world, just went after one another. And we made it happen, and it was just fun. We were all in the Discord together. We were all in the same channel. Just there was no teams. Everybody just had fun, and we went after it.
But it's a lot different when you're racing for fun versus racing for money.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
And also 20 trucks at Talladega is nothing. That's what, 6-7 rows versus 40 plus, which we might get, or 35 plus at least, which we will get, I know for sure on the Monday night series.
We'll be in the 40s, I guarantee you. We got 4-time drivers coming up. I got guys, hey, can I race on Monday nights that's not even on the entry list? So yeah, 40 guys.
I don't think Lyons gets it done, but I wouldn't discount it from saying that one of those two gets a win at another super speedway, or maybe they do get the win. It's so hard to predict. I will say Lyons has always been a very good super speedway racer. I believe he has a dual or a clash win, maybe season 1. So I wouldn't count Lyons out at a super speedway race. He's very confident there, and he got the job done again this past Monday. I think Rogers is more likely going to have to work a lot harder because he won't likely get it at a super speedway. He'll most likely get it at a 1.5 miles or a short track where there's a lot of very, very fast drivers. And it just makes it a whole lot harder. The competition level, I think, in my opinion, definitely ratchets up at non-super speedways. And it's not like it's not competitive at super speedways. It's just a different type of competitive.
I would agree. But if I had to pick one of them, I'm going to go with Donnie Lyons. What I saw out of him at Talladega, I'm not going to say he's not going to be my pick for Monday night. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to put him on a pedestal. But I do think both those drivers are progressively getting better each week, like week in and week out. From where we started from last season to now, I can see both of those guys, even for next season, just being competitive enough to run top 10s. And I do see Donnie getting a win before Curtis.
I would agree with that, just because, like I said, the super speedway prowess. Next, though, topic of discussion, and we're getting into the team discussion a little bit more here, and I think it's an important discussion to have. Right now, the team championship battle between Highline Racing and Brute Force Motorsports, it's a margin of 2 points for Highline Racing. They're up by 2 points. Which team do you think wins it at the end of the season? Obviously, I'm going to be biased. I'm going to take Highline Racing. Most likely, you'll take Brute Force Motorsports because Robbie Richards is on that team. He runs that team. You also got Nate Maurer, my Friday night teammate, Jacob Klinkart's on that team. Kerry Tribune's on the team. It's a stacked roster, Brady. I don't blame you for taking them. I just think you're wrong.
Well, I never said I was taking them. And, the thing about it is, ever since we introduced the whole team aspect of it, we're trying to critique to where it's, after week 5, somebody just doesn't run away with the team championship. We don't want to run 5 or 6 races and then somebody feel like, man, you're never going to catch those guys, right? Because it's just blown way out of there. So the way we've done it is, you get a bonus for winning the race. So if your driver wins it, they get 12 points. And then every team of the highest finisher, gets 9 points because there's 10 teams on Monday night. So it's 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So brute force, mathematically, they have to, if they finish second and they're, say Robbie Richards' brute force finishes second, at Talladega, and you finish 4th because you're the highest Highline driver there, it's basically back to square one. Y'all are both tied for first. So it's very tight. They do have 2 points. You guys do have 2 points over brute force. But I just see, and I'm going to say this with respect to Robbie, Justin White, Nate Maurer, those guys, Jacob, whatnot, Kerry Tribune. The X factor in that is you. Jason Morales is one of probably the most consistent drivers at Nazareth. Jason's come so far. He's becoming one of the most consistent drivers. You see him running up front. He qualifies great. He runs up front. Just has some bad luck at Michigan. But you, Hunter Parsons, I think Hunter's going to win Michigan. I don't think you will win Michigan. Martinsville. I think
I already didn't win Michigan, Brady. Thanks for rubbing it in.
So I think Hunter's going to win at Martinsville. So I just think the Highline hype. Plus, y'all got Chris Blanchard for the Super Speedway races. He has a great chance. Him or Steve Barnett have great chances to win at Talladega or any Super Speedway race. So I'm going to actually take Highline in this situation.
Yeah, I'm going to take my team, and it's confidence in that. I know that Jason's kind of our consistent. He'll make sure we never finish probably worse than 3rd out of team finishes, right? Because by the way, we run our point standings. If one team goes 1st, 2nd, 3rd, they just only get the 12 points for the win, and then the 9 points just goes to the next team. So I don't need Jason to finish 2nd, 3rd. I just need Jason to keep doing what Jason does best, and that's rack up top 5s, top 10s every week. And that allows drivers like Steve, Chris to really go for it at certain tracks, and allows drivers like Hunter to really focus on his short tracks, and allows drivers like me to just kind of run my race and do what I want.
Yeah.
In a way.
And it's quickly noted that we're changing it actually on Friday nights. We're going back to the old format where we're going to either do top 15 or top 20 wherever you finish. If we do top 20, it would be first place gets 20 points, 19 all the way down to 20th to 1, to where everybody on the team feels like they're contributing to the team points. So I don't know if we're going to do top 20, but we're going to figure out a point system to where we can kind of keep that gap close to make it exciting. And who knows, we might even reset them and take, the top 4 or 5 teams once the playoffs start and just kind of reset it. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that'll definitely make it a more interesting dynamic, because then you'll have not just whoever finishes first, but I do think there is some merit in the way we do it on the Monday night series, because a driver has a bad race for the team. It doesn't necessarily kill the team. They just need to have 1 of 5 drivers have a solid race, and when you have teams with Jacob Klinkart, Nathan Maurer, Robbie Richards, Kerry Tribune on it, if out of those 4 guys, none of them finish inside the top 5, we're having a big conversation on the Thursday night podcast, being like, what is wrong with brute force, right? Pretty similar with Highline Racing. Maybe not necessarily a top 5, but top 7, top 8. If one of us isn't in there, unless it's a Super Speedway, because obviously I won't finish anywhere near the front. We'll be like, what is wrong with Highline Racing? So I think you make a great point there. So I definitely like the 2 different styles. I think they entice 2 different types of racing, Brady. So I don't think there's necessarily a wrong way of doing these team standings, but it definitely makes for some great racing. I quickly looked it up. Donnie Lyons currently has a top 10, but he's currently 13th in points. So Donnie Lyons has had a great year so far. on the Monday Night Series, and I would say I agree with you. He's more likely to get that win before Curtis Rogers does. But now we're getting to something that I teased out a little bit in the hot laps, and that is Justin who? Yeah, that's Justin White, one of the board members here at Nazra, a great guy. But he's currently sitting 33rd in points, 48 points behind 20th. That's almost a full race worth, Brady. Yes, he's missed a race. I'm aware. If you do the math, though, he's still about 20-ish points outside of the top 20. So it's not like he would have been in if he had made that one race. It's not that much of a difference, Brady. Like you said, and we talked about, is he going through a sophomore slump? Does he have to win to make it in? Can he find a win? Can he find a win to make it in? Can he find a way to point his way in? I'm going to say likely he will point his way in. Likely. But look at his stats so far this year. Forget the points. 0 top 5s. 0 top 10s. I don't even know what his best finish is. I mean, it hasn't been a good season for Justin White in the slightest. He and it's not necessarily always his fault. He gets caught up in a lot of stuff, but it has been bad.
Yeah, it's been really bad, and I almost feel bad for him because he's going to run up front. Most weeks top 10s, top 15s at worst, right? He does struggle at some tracks. He does better at the 1.5 miles that we're accustomed to, like myself, yourself, Tyler, and Adam Newbert. It's weird just seeing Justin's name down there in 33rd. It was funny because he messaged me, I want to say about a week ago, and he was like, "When's this bad luck going to end?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "I'm 33rd in points." And I was like, "Huh?" Like, I almost didn't believe him. And I'm trying to pull up his stats right here to see what his worst
I'm looking at his finish. He finished 31st at Michigan. He finished 31st at Richmond. He likes that number 31. I'll keep going. You keep talking about his season.
Yeah. So I got it right here. It's 31st. Well, yeah, 31st at Michigan, 31st at Richmond, 27th at the Roval, 39th at Kansas, and 20th is his best finish at Nashville Super Speedway. And that's a racetrack that he claims to be great at, that he should have finished better at. But I mean, look at his starting spots: 32nd, 27th, 28th. I think his main problem is he needs to qualify better. And then you don't have to worry about being in the back and getting caught up in messes or whatnot. But yeah, I don't think Justin has to worry about the points. I know it's 48 points. He can go on a streak and get some top 2s, top 3 finishes, get a bunch of stage points because that's going to matter. Once you see the guys 20th on back, you don't see too many stage points, and we know that stage points play a big factor. So all he needs is a couple of weeks to get a bunch of stage points, have some great finishes, and he'll be right up there, 22nd, 23rd, 24th in the standings. And then he just has to climb over that hump to make it into the playoffs. But I don't see that even being a factor. I see Justin winning at Homestead or Las Vegas. I think it's going to be a track where you and I are going to be running up front, and he's going to have to beat us. But I do see Justin White winning at one of those 1.5-mile tracks.
I say Robbie Richards gets it done in Florida. I don't know what about it. He only wins in Florida, it seems, in this series, on the Monday Night Series. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's won 3 of the 3 Florida races we've won so far in the Monday Night Series. Hats off to Robbie Richards. I think he gets it done there. You bring up Las Vegas, and I think that's an important race for us in this season because you have a track where guys like you and myself are very, very strong, always competing for wins unless my wheel dies in the middle of the race and I go straight into the turn 4 wall. And then you have guys like Jose Luis Rivera, who just had the best race of his life a week and a half ago, who's also very, very good at Las Vegas and knows how to finish top 5 there. I think he has multiple top 5s there in races in Nazra. I think it's hard for Justin White to win at Vegas. Do I think he can do it? Of course I can. He's a very, very talented driver. He knows how to get it done. But I don't know about Homestead. And furthermore, it's important to note, Justin White has 24 stage points this year. He has none of his bonus points are from 0 incident races or leading laps. He has had incidents in every single race, and he has yet to lead a lap this year. He has 24 stage points. His finishes have not helped him. And like you mentioned, his qualifying has been absolutely horrible. His best qualifying effort was 13th at, I'm trying to see now, Kansas. He qualified 15th at Richmond, finished 31st there. But yeah, I agree. The qualifying has to improve for Justin White. I need to see something the next 3 weeks. You got Talladega, Martinsville, Homestead. He needs to at least get within 20 points, I think, of that cut line in those 3 races, if not win one of those 3 races.
Yeah, and the worst thing about this, Tyler, is you're already kind of your morale's down, right? You're messaging your buddies and you're looking for words of encouragement because I gave him some. I mean, I think that's what you do, whenever your buddy reaches out to you. But it has to be, he was banking on winning Kansas because he won there the season before. He ran, who did he beat at Kansas season before? Adam Newbert, that is. And
Yep.
he wasn't even a factor there. So, he was really, really down in the dumps. Then you got to go into Talladega. You don't know what's going to happen. And, most people like Adam Newbert swim, Justin White, Brute Force Motorsports. I don't know what Highline's going to do. I know what Mission One's going to do. But most of those guys are going to want to run in the back. So you're not going to get stage points, right? Because you're just trying to be there at the end to finish the race and maybe get the victory if you're lucky. Because we all know Talladega and Daytona, Atlanta, New Atlanta, it's all about being lucky. So who knows what's going to happen there? But being that down in the dumps, your morale's down. Going at Talladega, it's got to be a bad feeling for him.
I agree. And you mentioned Talladega. We don't know what to expect, but I'm going to make you think what you expect. Just for reference, only 15 drivers finished on the lead lap at Daytona in the season opener. 15. Not a lot. Of the, 44 we had enter, I believe?
Yeah, 45, I believe. 45.
Yeah, so 15. A third of the field finished on the lead lap. And I wrecked on the last lap, and I still finished on the lead lap somehow. So really about 12 of those drivers were crossing the line within relative reason of the race winner, Robbie Richards. What kind of race are we expecting here at Talladega? It's wider than Daytona. It's faster than Daytona. And who wins at Talladega?
Well, I think I think we're due for a great race, a great showing on the broadcast. We've seen, Richmond not be so much of a great show. Michigan, we had a lot of cautions. I think Talladega, one or two things are going to happen. Either we're going to have a wreck in stage one and everybody's going to calm down in stage two, or we're going to have a clean stage one, a wreck in stage two, and everybody's going to calm down for the final run. That's typically what happens in our races at Talladega and Daytona. I don't think anything changes. I do think we will have I think the big one's going to happen in stage one because I think half the field's going to ride in the back. I think the other half's going to go 2 and 3 wide, try to get stage points. I think the pressure's on for a lot of guys to get stage points. And there's a lot of opportunity out there for guys like Cody Knott, our producer, guys like Donnie Lyons, Curtis Rogers that we spoke of earlier, Tim Hammond. And I think, when you talk about one person, you got to talk about their teammates. It's a team deal whether or not you're going to be up front. Taylor Peacock's going to be up front. Christopher Blanchard, whether Highline wants him to run in the back with the rest of them, Christopher Blanchard's going to be up front. So I just think there's so much strategy, but I do think there's going to be a caution in stage one. I think stage two calms down. I think we have a clean stage two, and then it's all about the green flag pit stop in that final run. And I'm calling out Adam Newbert. Everybody's on to it. Everybody knows what to do. Hey, let's hurry up and short pit the pack on the green flag, come out in front of them, and try to get ahead of them. Everybody's going to do it. Whenever people see swim hit pit road, Brute Force is going to do it. Then Mission One's going to do it. Then Highline's going to do it. And the next thing you know, you're going to have 4 or 5 groups with 4 or 5 different vehicle drivers. Then who knows what the port timers of those teams are going to come in. You might have 6 or 7 guys per team that have a port timer to come in and help out with strategy. But I think the days of Adam Newbert's theory of, hey, I'm going to hurry up and short pit and we're just going to run it out to green and be 5 or 6 seconds ahead of the pack, I think that strategy's dead. I think everybody's caught up to it. So I still see the big pack at the end. I think there's a caution that comes out with maybe 10 laps to go. And next thing you know, we're 2 and 3 wide coming to the finish. And I think it's going to be a great race. I think it's going to be a 3 wide finish. And who knows who's going to win. But I'm definitely picking, man, this is tough. I say Chris Blanchard gets the job done for Highline.
Good pick. Taking my teammate. I was going to say, do you have like a camera in my house or something? Because I had everything written down on my show sheet individually on pen what I was going to say. And I quite literally wrote here, 1 clean stage, 1 crazy stage, mostly clean finish. I mean, seriously, Brady, I'm gonna have to start calling the cops or something. This is not okay.
I think I
Um,
stole your notes for the show.
yeah, you stole my notes that I wrote in pen on the show
Hey,
5 minutes before we
that's why we're
started.
doing it. That's why we're doing this, right? We disagree, we agree, we kind of read each other's minds. Who knows?
Yeah, it's been a lot of agreement tonight, which is kind of surprising for us. I think at final lap we may get some back and forth that I'll enjoy, but yeah, I agree. You're gonna have a big wreck that's probably gonna temper the field down. We'll probably lose about 15 trucks in that wreck, or at least 15 trucks that are not competitive anymore, whether they're out of the race or if they're just wounded. Um, yeah, as far as who wins, I'm gonna take Steve Barnett. I'm gonna take another
That's a good
Highline
pick.
guy.
That's a good
I
pick.
believe he won the All Star race at Talladega in season 1
He
because
did.
someone jumped the start illegally.
Who was that? Who was that again?
Illegally jumped the start.
And Steve, Steve's probably watching. He never lets that go, man.
I wouldn't
I've
let
talked
it
to
go
iRacing.
either.
I've talked to iRacing, and I told them that they need to get rid of that Geico sign that's right there, right before the Geico restart zone. It's a stupid sticker. I know Geico puts out a lot of money to sponsor that race, but iRacing needs to take that down, put some white paint over it, so no driver ever makes that mistake again.
So it's funny. The asphalt's painted blue on the apron, Brady. You can just look for that, you know. You don't have to worry about the sign on the outside wall.
There's a lot of stuff going on. Jason was actually running for Mission One Esports, so when he was behind me, I was like, Jason, on 3, we're gonna go. And he was like, okay. So there was a lot of things that I was worried about besides nailing the restart, and I just got too antsy and I took off. And Jason was like, man, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm going. Come on, let's go. And he was like, I think you jumped the restart. And I was like, nah, come on.
Yeah, you did. It wasn't even close, which is funny. I remember calling that. And I was like, "What? Why is Brady leaving now? Holy cow!" Yeah, it was definitely a funny one. Steve Burnett commenting, he's smiling as we discuss this topic. But I will say, I agree with you. The early pit strategy is not the same. I will disagree with you and say that Highline Racing kind of the conversations we had at Daytona were interesting, and I'll leave it at that for the most part. What I will say is I am one who absolutely hates this type of racing, and I will be sitting at the back of the pack. So if you're looking for the points leader to dice it up front, tune in 2 weeks' time for Martinsville. I'll be the pole sitter, or at least in the top 5, and I'll see you there. But as far if you were expecting anything crazy out of good old broadcast host here on Monday night at Talladega, it ain't happening, Brady. You already know how much I hate this racing.
Well, your buddy Steve, he's watching us because he's sitting there laughing. He does have a question for you. He says, ask Tyler Dittmer how he feels about Milwaukee Mile being on the schedule.
It's the best track out there, in my opinion, that or IRP. I think IRP is a great track, but I think Milwaukee is a great track because you can kind of run the corners. You can do it a different way. You can ride the bottom. You can diamond and get that nice, good exit. You have to use the brake. I don't like tracks where it's just lifting. I want some brake. I want some momentum balance there. Flat, so you really have to know how to use that brake really well. Requires a good amount of wheel input, but you also have to be able to save that right front tire because you're going to burn it at Milwaukee. I think it's one of the best tracks out there in iRacing. I know. Steve's going to give me a hard time about that, but I think Milwaukee's absolutely amazing. You know, I don't know. I think Brady, you may disagree. I think a lot of people disagree, but it's a great track.
Well, I don't have that many laps on it. I know I have it. I bought the track. I think I was gonna attempt to run an official race there maybe a year or 2 ago. I think I had to get off or something like that. I got called out to work or something. Something happened. I didn't race it, but I did run a few laps, and for the most part, I enjoyed it myself. But at this time, our buddy Huck is putting us on the spot. Merce Magical Creations. They're actually sponsoring the Crown Jewel races.
Did you just miss when I did this in the middle of the hot laps, Brady?
You did? I missed
gave
it.
this advertisement.
I'm sorry. Well, we're going to give them another one. Merce Magical Creations, the Crown Jewel trophies. So hopefully we can kind of make that to where it kind of goes into maybe the Monday night series too. We're going to talk to our buddy Huck about that. But it's just for Friday nights this season, and maybe when we introduce the Crown Jewel races and the Dash for Cash races on Monday nights, we can get them to come on board and do some extra trophies for us.
Now I know you don't even listen to me, and that's what really hurts the most, Brady. That's what
It's
really,
that
really hurts.
selective hearing. That's selective hearing, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think it's now time to switch it over to the final lap here. 10 minutes topics. We got a lot to get through, Brady. Should be a lot of. We're going to wait for the timer to get on the board, waiting for that timer to show up, and I will read the first topic. And it's which team would be willing to take a risk on a supercar driver to potentially get themselves into the playoffs with a win? And would SVG be the man for the job? That's a 40-second timer, but we'll just go anyway. Start, Brady.
Well, I'm gonna say it's gonna be Shane, and I say it's Trackhouse. I mean, they kind of started this whole Project 91, so why not, add a third vehicle, just race it every single week, and give Shane a shot. I mean, he gave y'all a win. He put y'all on the map. He's continuing this momentum with Trackhouse. Just keep it going. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I'll take 10 and a half minutes, Cody. Keep that timer up there. I love it. I'm going to agree that Shane gets a ride in a year. He says he's going to do one more year in supercars, but he did hint in his post-race interview he wants to come do NASCAR. I'm going to take a different driver, though, who I think would love to come to NASCAR. Currently an IndyCar driver for Penske, and that is Scott McLaughlin. He's got the background. He's a very talented driver, has won IndyCar races already. Very competitive in IndyCar points in only 2 full seasons. This is his second full season. I love what Scotty Mack has done with Penske. He's a great personality. He's an absolute must-follow on Twitter. I think he would fit the NASCAR mold very, very well. Get Scott McLaughlin in that Penske seat. Get Austin Cindric out or get a 4th car, Mr. Penske. Captain needs to put Scotty in that chair.
Yeah, and Marco Andretti, he's running a truck race at Mid-Ohio later on this year. So who knows?
Week.
We might
Mid-Ohio's this weekend.
Oh, Mid-Ohio's this week. See, so who knows if more of those IndyCar driver guys come over to NASCAR and run some more races.
Yeah, I agree, especially with SRX starting back up soon. Should be something to keep an eye out on. If NASCAR does not return to Chicago next year, which is being threatened by the current mayor because the previous mayor was the one who brought NASCAR in, which city do you want to host a street race?
I know. So I kind of thought about this a lot, and I kind of thought about places like Los Angeles, St. Louis, New York, just to name some, like maybe Miami area or something like that. But what comes to my mind, and I know they race there at Nashville Super Speedway, which you and I both love, on iRacing that is. But Nashville already hosts an IndyCar race, so why not double up the weekend and have the NASCAR cars go there too? And run across the bridge by the Titan Stadium, run downtown by Broadway. I mean, the market's there. The people, it's a racing town. The people love it when the Indy cars are there. I would love to go watch an IndyCar race there. So I'm going to go with Nashville just because I think it makes more sense now.
I will say I don't want NASCAR to run Nashville City because I want them to run the fairgrounds, but that's reaching some snags apparently recently. So hopefully that all works out with SMI taking over that property here shortly. I'm going to say I want it in Boston. I think it'd be fun. Go through by the Boston Marathon finish line, go by Fenway Park, go by the Garden. I think it would be really, really cool. Very similar to Chicago, very historic area. And they can make it more designed for stock cars. They need a little bit more space. I think that IndyCar course is a little too narrow for any of the current stock cars to really work. Or Detroit at the Grand Prix they host already currently in Detroit would be a good fix. The GT cars race there and they're about the same size as the next gen car, maybe a little bit smaller. Next one, though. This is an interesting question. Should NASCAR return to either of these 4 tracks? Montreal, Road America, Kentucky, and Iowa.
I wouldn't say I enjoyed Road America watching that race. I think that it didn't get enough credit that it deserved. I actually think, the next gen car, would be a good fit for it again. I don't like the weekend that it was on. I believe it was on 4th of July weekend.
It was. Chicago did replace Road America.
So I think you changed the weekend, but I think it deserves to be on the schedule. If I couldn't have Road America, I would pick Kentucky, and I'm gonna just tell you why. It's not because I love Kentucky. It's not because it's a mile and a half. I make sales calls in Kentucky. So why not make sales calls one week and go catch a race on the weekend? So that's why I would like to see Kentucky back on the schedule.
I want Iowa or Rockingham on the short track side of things. I didn't mention them, but Rockingham's a good choice. But I want Montreal back. I think the Cup Series should go to Montreal. The Xfinity Series always had great races in Montreal when they ran there. I want the Cup Series to go to Montreal, go in like August, replace it with one of the road courses that's absolutely boring. You say you can't get rid of Sonoma. I say you can. It's the worst road course out there on the NASCAR circuit. It has the least amount of passing. It's so awful. Every other road course NASCAR runs at is immediately better than Sonoma. I think you need to replace the California date with a oval, but not Sonoma. Sonoma's horrible. So take the road course to Montreal. Simple as that.
Well, why don't you just extend the schedule? You know, you race 30, 38 weeks out the year. What's 40 weeks? You know, just add 2 races. So, you know, that might come into play with money as far as drivers get paid or whatnot, like NFL football players. But I mean, the revenue that you'll bring in. I mean, because you know there was a topic of discussion about a second Pocono race, or you know eliminating another place that they go twice, like Daytona or Talladega, and going somewhere else. So who knows?
I'd argue that the only tracks that deserve 2 dates right now are Darlington, Daytona, and Talladega. That's it, in my opinion. Because Charlotte has the Roval and the Oval. I think they should get rid of the Roval and replace it with another Oval in the playoffs that's not Charlotte. Or Kansas goes to 1 date. I think that would also be good for Kansas. I don't think a lot of these tracks need multiple dates. I guess Charlotte's easy because it's where all the teams are located. So maybe we have to keep Charlotte 2 dates. It probably just works logistically the best. But every other track that's not Charlotte, Daytona, I would even say maybe Talladega goes to 1 date because I think you would sell out. Even, I mean, it already does sell out for the most part. Not the stands always, but the infield does. But I think it would be the biggest party in the world if Talladega just had 1 date. Yeah, I don't think we need 2 dates for all these tracks anymore. And get rid of Bristol Dirt. Bristol can have 2 dates, but it needs to both be on the concrete, or they pave it. They need to pave it, in my opinion. But I like this question you put here in the final lap segment. Outside of Keith Bradley and ourselves, I think actually I posted this. Your next one. But outside of Keith Bradley and ourselves, who would you start a 4-driver team with, no restrictions to lead, doesn't matter the night of the week, for full-timers in NASRA?
All right, so I'm starting a team in NASRA. Am I picking 4 drivers, or I'm just picking 1 driver to lead the team?
Just pick one, because we have another thing that's kind of interesting, following a similar vein.
All right, so I can't pick Keith, and I got to pick somebody that's going to come in and lead my team. The name that pops out to me the most, and I'm going to explain why, is Stephen Thomas.
Okay.
I think Swim, by adding Stephen Thomas to Swim, he is the reason why Adam Newbert has had so much success.
I agree.
think Steven makes Adam better. I think he makes Blake better at places where we've seen Blake struggle at before. Now you have Adam Newton, who's a driver over there, Brian Chu, who's a driver over there. I think the only reason Adam Newbert wins the Monday Night Championship is because Steven taught Adam how to conserve tires, make better decisions during the race, and he basically groomed him to almost have the same exact driving style as Stephen Thomas. It's not flashy at times, but who's always at the end? Stephen Thomas. And now you're starting to see that with Adam Newbert. So as far as if I had to pick somebody that I wanted to come in and groom a team and be kind of a mentor to them, Stephen Thomas is my guy.
Yeah, I agree. Stephen Thomas would be my first pick, but if I had to take a second pick right now,
don't you do it? Don't you even say it? I can't bear it for you to say something again this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. It's gonna be Chris Cinnamon.
Oh my God!
I can't take Keith Bradley. I don't think Adam can lead a team, as you've already said.
Cody, cue the music.
Yeah,
I don't think. Careless Whispers is coming on right now. The saxophone's playing in the background.
Yeah. I don't think Adam can lead a team right now. And you need a guy who's going to perform week in, week out. So I would say Chris Cinnamon or Jason Morales, who's already my boss in Highlight Racing. But I think he'd be a good pick too because he is a calm, level-headed guy who's willing to talk to his drivers and kind of get on the same page. And he doesn't have to do it in a group setting. He'll do it one-on-one. And he's very consistent. He may not win a lot, but he's a very consistent driver, and I like him as a team owner. So if I was starting a team, he'd be a driver I want on my team for sure. Is that an acceptable answer, Jason Morales? Are you okay
Yeah,
with that?
no, I love Jason. Yeah, I miss Jason. I wish he was still racing with us.
Well, now he has to deal with my ass on Monday nights. So, uh, but now we're coming with our last question. We got a minute 20. Nazra is coming out with a 2-man charter system truck series on Wednesday nights, 20-week schedule. If you were to run it and you could only run 10 of the 20 weeks, who would be your other driver to run with you?
Yeah, so you get 20 weeks. I can only race 10 weeks, and I got to find somebody. And I might surprise you by saying this, but the driver that I would choose would be you, Tyler. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we don't know what the schedule is, but I'm sure it's going to be diverse to where it's short tracks, mile and a half, super speedway, road courses, kind of throughout the whole thing. And what I would do with you is, hey, you run the road courses, you run
Yeah,
the
I
short
figured.
tracks. I'm going to run the super speedways, and we'll split the mile and a halfs or intermediate tracks. And I
Yeah.
think you and I would dominate the field. I think our driving styles are alike. We know how to race. We know how to race the races at Nazra. So you would be my pick to race them.
It's funny because I wrote you first, and I had a list. I had a short list. It was you, then it was Keith, and then it was Steven. And outside of you, I agree with everything you said about each other. I think we would pair each other perfectly because I'm a very good road course racer and short track racer. You're one of the best. Yeah, we're going to extend this a bonus minute. Thank you, our producer, Cody. Now, I agree that the mile and a half, so you could probably split pretty evenly because there are some that you're better at than I am, and I'm better at than you are, and we could figure out a balance, especially with our work schedules. It'd probably be pretty easy to do. Which one who has to run which? And also, I want nothing to do with super speedways, so you can take them, Brady. You can have all the super speedways you want. I want nothing to do with them. But I thought Stephen Thomas would be an interesting pick for both of us as well because he is one of the best short track drivers. And I'm a good short track driver, but I'm not great. I'm solid enough. I can get top fives, top tens. And I think he matches up best with us because I don't want Keith on as my partner. I would because he'd win whenever I'm not there, most likely. But road course wise, I can handle my own. So I don't really need a road course guy. I need a short track guy though, and an intermediate guy, or a super speedway guy, which you can do 2 of those 3. So you're a pretty damn good pick.
And I just came up with an idea. If this takes off, everybody does scramble tournaments with golf, 4-man scrambles. So
Yeah.
why not do like a 30 or a longer season throughout the year, and you have 4 drivers that you kind of mix up, and you have a road course guy, a short track guy, a mile and a half guy, and a super speedway guy. So who
Yeah.
knows? It might be an idea that we might come and bring to Nazareth one day.
Would be a fun system. Well, that's all the time we have for you folks tonight. Thanks everyone who tuned in throughout, who came and went. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Huck. I've appreciated you. I don't really hurt my feelings saying it's the Tyler show. I think Huck, we've today with all your advertising that we've doubled up on. So again, highly recommend you check out all of our partners here at Nazra. You see simware.com. You got Concerns of Police Survivors. You have all of our other partners here, simracerhub.com. It's just, it's a lot of fun doing the show with you, Brady. But any quick final words before we hit it for the night?
Yeah, just everybody that's watching, tune in to Monday night, Talladega. It's going to be a great show for the simracerhub.com truck series on Monday nights, and tune in tomorrow night at the Clash at Auto Club Speedway, where we kick off a 7th season for the Concerns of Police Survivors. They came on board as a title sponsor. So season 7 at the Clash, Auto Club Speedway. I mean, it's going to be a great week of racing in Nazareth. It's going to give us a lot to talk about next week.
And huge shout out to Huck Wigington for making Concerns of Police Survivors come in on board here at Nazareth, and everything he's brought to us. It includes, comic book companies and all that stuff. So again, huge shout out to Huck Wigington for all he does as well. But that's going to do it for us tonight on the Hot Lap. I'm Tyler. That's Brady LaBeouf. We'll see you guys next week. Maybe not the same time, but it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.